Welcome into Locked On Phillies. The Phillies lose a series with the Mets. They did not look good offensively. The pitching fell apart at the end. A lot of stuff that maybe we're not worried about yet, but should cause a little bit of concern. Plus an upcoming series with the Marlins. We'll get into all of it on today's Locked On Phillies.
You are Locked On Phillies, your daily Philadelphia Phillies podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Yes, I'm your host of Locked On Phillies, Connor Thomas. Been talking Phillies baseball for years over at 97.5 Fanatic. Now happy to be with you here on Locked On Phillies. And I want to thank you for making Locked On Phillies your first listen every day. We're free and available wherever you get your podcasts. It has not been a great last couple of games for the Philadelphia Phillies. I think you could tell just by my general demeanor here how I'm feeling about the team right now and their performance recently. Now, it's okay. It's only, April? Yeah. And we're only halfway through April. So there's plenty of time still. Like, they're not even 10% through the Major League Baseball season. So there's no real worry. What you will see if you're watching this episode on YouTube is I've got on the black T-shirt, the black hat. I'm wearing my funeral attire because the Phillies lost an NL East series. And you know what we're going to do? Anytime the Philadelphia Phillies lose a series this year, I'm going to come out with the black T-shirt. I don't like the black T-shirt. I don't want to be wearing this black T-shirt. I'd rather be wearing some fun Phillies gear. I'd rather be wearing a fun Phillies hat or a Bryce Harper headband or something exciting. You can look at YouTube and be like, man, Connor's excited. Look at that outfit. But unfortunately, my mood goes as the team goes, and they did not put me in a good mood over the past couple of days. We'll get into all of it. Let's start with Game 2 because we have Games 2 and 3 to recap, and we are still going to do Stepping Off today because it's the middle episode of the week. So something that we'll talk about when we get into that final segment of today's episode. So, Game 2 of the New York Mets and Philadelphia Phillies. We already recapped the Phillies' huge comeback victory. If you're listening to this right after you listen to that episode, what an emotional change you might hear in my voice or see in my face if you're checking us out on YouTube. Really, the Phillies were in trouble in Game 1 offensively until that 8th inning. They only scored in the 5th inning of that, or the 5th inning, the 8th inning. They scored 5 runs in that one, and it could have easily been another shutout. They were getting shut out to that point, losing 4-0. Well, the Phillies did get shut out in Game 2 of this series. They lost 2-0 to the New York Mets behind an outstanding performance from Tyler McGill, one of the Mets starting pitchers. McGill now moves to 2-0 on the year with an ERA still of 0. And he just diced. He threw 5 1/3 innings. He struck out 5. And that feels low for a guy that was as dominant as McGill was. The Phillies hitters just had absolutely no chance on this day. And what are you going to do? The bullpen shut them down as well. Jason Shreve, Drew Smith, and Edwin Diaz, all dominant, all perfect. Not perfect, mind you, because they gave up some hits. The Phillies actually did have 6 hits in this game. The Mets only had 3. So the Phillies strung a couple together. They just couldn't string enough together to scrape a run across. It's their first shutout of the year. It was the first game of the year where they didn't homer, because even in that game where the Phillies only scored 1 run against the Oakland Athletics, Gene Segura did actually leave the yard in the bottom of the 9th there to make it a 3-run game. So the first non-homer game. And let's take a look at the Phillies side of it. First, we'll talk about the offense because that's the notable part of this one. Here's where the hits came from. JT Realmuto was 2 for 4. Not bad. Nick Castellanos 2 for 4 with a pair of doubles. So he had a solid afternoon. Outside of that, though, Bryce Harper had a single and Johan Camargo had a single. And that's the entirety of the Phillies hitting. Schwarber, Hoskins, Gregorius, Stott, Muzziotti, Alec Bowman, a pinch hit, Matt Vierling, nothing. So unfortunately for the Phillies, they just didn't have the offense cooking in this one. And when you see that, you're starting to be a little bit concerned at the top of the order. The Kyle Schwarber, JT Realmuto, Bryce Harper, Nick Castellanos, less so Rhys Hoskins. He's batting the best out of all of them. He was right around 300. But you're starting to have a little bit of concern about those guys. We'll talk about that more when we recap Game 3 of the series. But let's get into the pitching in this one from the Philadelphia Phillies because it actually wasn't bad. They 3-hit the New York Mets. That's a solid day on the mound. You should win with this offense. I'd be willing to say every single game that you 3-hit an opponent should be a W in the win. It should be, well, a notch in the win column, a W on the score sheet at the end of the night for the Philadelphia Phillies. Zach Wheeler came out 4 2/3 innings pitched. We expected him to have kind of a shorter day because he's not fully stretched out. It was his first start of the year. He only gave up 2 hits. He did load the bases in the first with a little bit of lack of command, say. Couldn't really find the zone. He was trying to work in on guys. He hit a couple guys, hit 2, I believe, in that first inning as part of loading the bases, but got out of it. Only allowed 1 run, 1 earned run, and it was on his last pitch of the day. He tried to sneak a changeup, I believe he said it was, by Brandon Nimmo that got deposited in the right field seats, and that was all of the runs the Mets would need. Now, let's look at Connor Brockman came out and he pitched 2/3 of an inning, only gave up 1 hit, but his velocity was kind of down. Not a stellar outing for him. And Juris Familia came in the top of the ninth to go ahead and throw a shutdown inning there to give the Phillies another chance. But the interesting relief appearance for this one, in my opinion, is what Christopher Sanchez did on the mound. Now, Christopher Sanchez, he just got his call up last year. Young player, young lefty, out of the pen. Went 2 2/3 innings pitched, no hits, 1 run, 1 earned, and that was inherited. It was given up by Connor Brockman once Sanchez came out of the game. 2 walks, 3 K. So the command could be a little bit better, but for a young player, he looks stellar. It was remember when we had that good long relief appearance from Nick Nelson when Ranger Suarez got into trouble early and the Phils ended up coming back? Well, yeah, this was somewhat like that too. The bullpen looked good in this one. So if Christopher Sanchez, I tweeted it out, between him and Bailey Falter, one of the young lefties in this pen is going to have to step up if this bullpen wants to be above average. Well, a good second outing from Christopher Sanchez on this season. But this first long one, I'd feel comfortable if I'm Joe Girardi going back to him, maybe not in pressure spots yet, but in those spots where you need a guy to kind of be in a mop-up role in the middle innings. So I like that. Ultimately, the Phils fall 2-0. A very uninspiring game, which is why I waited till today so I could make sure I could recap both of the final games of the series with you because, honestly, I couldn't do an entire episode on what happened in Game 2. Just wasn't that impactful of the game. The Phils bats were quiet. The Mets bats were actually quieter just by nature of the long ball and loading the bases up with some walks a little bit. Phillies lose that one. That's okay. They've still got a chance to go after Game 3 of the series, the ender, coming up. And you've got Aaron Nola on the mound meeting Max Scherzer. You're familiar with Scherzer, just not in a New York Mets uniform. His first start for the Mets against the Philadelphia Phillies. And Aaron Nola, who's had so much trouble stopping those runs, getting you to the end of the series and saying, we need this win, Aaron. Go get it for us. You're one of our guys. He's had trouble with that over the past couple seasons. Well, he got an opportunity in Game 3 against the Mets with a chance for the Phillies to win their second straight series to start the year. Now, you see my outfit. You heard me talk about it as we got going. Unfortunately, it didn't go that way. And there's more concerns in this one than just losing a singular ball game. I'll break it all down in a second, and I'll tell you why I'm not hitting the panic button yet on the Phillies, but I'm close on a certain player or two. Okay, let's talk about BetOnline. BetOnline.net is your #1 source for all your betting stats and sports info. You can find all of the latest sports developments, league reviews, and news, including this year's basketball playoffs. Some good play-in games over the course of the week already. Minnesota with a big win. Brooklyn already set into the 7th seed in the Eastern Conference. All that good stuff. And plus, the start of the Major League Baseball season. Everything's still ramping up in Major League Baseball. Go ahead and check out all the information over on BetOnline. BetOnline is your continued source for all of your sports wagering information, from live betting to playoffs to esports and more. You got literally everything you could ever want from the sports betting world. It's right there on BetOnline. So head to the website today, jump on your laptop, or you could use your mobile device. It's right in your pocket to learn more about the trends in action. BetOnline, where the game starts. Let's get into Game 3 of the series, the final game of Phillies Mets, shall we? As I said that Game 2 wouldn't have been enough to do a full episode on. It was just not that inspiring. There were 9 total hits in the game, or 8 total hits in the game. 5 from the Phillies. I know the Phillies had 6. We just talked about this, and I already forgot. There are 9 total hits in the game, 6 for the Phillies, 3 for the Mets. 2-0 win, nothing all that exciting. Both sides pitched well. Both sides played solid defense. Just really not enough hitting from the Phillies. But Game 3 was the opposite. A 9-6 final. The Mets end up winning in Max Scherzer's first start against the Phillies in a New York Mets uniform. Aaron Nola does not have a banner day. And even though the Phillies put up 6 runs, most of them came late, it was a slow start to the game for the Philadelphia Phillies, something that we've become accustomed to over the first 6 games of this season. And the Phillies fall to 3-3. Let's get things straight. 3-3, 500. Not all that bad. 500. Remember, the Phillies swept the World Series winning Atlanta Braves to start out last season. The Braves turned out fine, and, well, we know where the Phillies ended up. This earlier in the year, we're not looking at the record. It's okay. We're looking at trends. We're looking at big type of currents that build up the ocean of what the Philadelphia Phillies are. So we're not looking at one little wave. One little wave in an entire ocean of 162 games, whatever. But you see those currents and you can kind of figure out where the waves are going to pop up and where the calm seas are. I don't know why I'm thinking about that. Maybe because it's raining. I were doing so many like seas and water analogies right there. But it's apt when you look at what happened with the Phillies. First, let's jump into the biggest wave or the biggest kind of current that we saw in this one. Now, Scherzer was dominant on the mound for the New York Mets. He always is. 5 innings pitched. He gave up 5 hits and he walked 3 guys. There were some opportunities for the Phillies, but they didn't capitalize. Scherzer worked out of jams. He had 7 Ks. He only had 1 earned run. And even though he walked those 3 guys, he got out of it relatively unscathed. That 1 earned run came in the bottom of the 4th when he was near the end of his rope this early in the season as well. So, yeah, not exactly an un-Max Scherzer-like performance, even though it wasn't typically as good as you see from him. And Aaron Nola did not hold up his end of the bargain. He went 3 1/3, gave up 3 hits, 3 runs, 3 earned, a homer. He only K'd 5, and he walked 3 guys. The command was not there. The spotting up was not there. And I've started calling him Mr. 0-2 because every time he gets a guy down 0-2, either he is outside of the zone until he gets in a 3-2 difficult count, or he doesn't have a put-away pitch that consistently. In the past, we've seen a great 2-seamer. We've seen good breaking stuff from Aaron Nola. We've even seen a fastball he can spot better. And a player of his caliber should be spotting his pitches significantly better than what he does, especially at 0-2. Just, he's dirting breaking balls. Like, he's throwing breaking balls 58 feet. And I don't know if you know this, it's a new thing in baseball this year. Yeah, the plate's 60 feet away, 60 feet, 6 inches to be exact, rather. But he's not throwing pitches that Mets batters or batters in general in any game are even considering looking at with 2 strikes on him, which is a problem. You have the advantage. You cannot give up the advantage by throwing waste pitches there. And not waste pitches in the conventional sense of it, where it's like a ball off the plate and you think, okay, you're going to get him to swing because it looks like it's in the zone and it breaks out. No, these are just completely wasted pitches. It's not good from Aaron Nola, and it's a trend that we've seen. And the more troubling trend is Aaron Nola, when he gets the opportunity, he's one of your better pitchers. You want him to have the ball in situations where you're trying to go win a series. Over the past 2 or 3 years, when he gets the final game of a series, tied at 1-1, and the Phillies need a win, he's been awful. He just does not have the big moment pitching in him, and it's worrying me over and over and over again because clearly the talent is there. There's talent inside of Aaron Nola that would allow him to be a great, an exceptional pitcher in Major League Baseball, and he has been at points in the past. He was for a full season in 2018, but I mean, lately, he's got, over the past 3 years, an ERA almost at 5. It's just not cutting it for a guy that's going to see as many innings as he is for this team. And you know what? If he continues to throw that way, he won't be seeing that many innings for this team. That's something, you know, where I said in the tease, I'm not pressing the panic button on the Phillies team. How could you 6 games in? But I'm looking at it when it comes to Aaron Nola. I'm kind of side-eyeing it. Like, I see you over there, Button. You might be getting pressed soon if this continues for another start or 2. It wasn't great, and the bullpen was also bad in this one. I had a tweet ready to send Who would have guessed the Phillies bullpen would have been the best part of this team to start the year, and then they go out and put out this line. Seranthony Dominguez, 1 1/3 innings pitched, earned run, 2 hits given up. Damon Jones, 2/3 of an inning, 2 runs, 2 earned on 1 hit, 1 K on that one. Connor Brogdon, 2/3 of an inning, 2 hits, 2 runs, 2 earned. Jose Alvarado had a scoreless inning. Bailey Falter, 1 hit, 1 run, 1 earned, 1 walk, 1 K. Just ones across the board. You want to see these guys get out and listen to some of these ERAs. Seranthony Dominguez, a 2.45. He's great. Jose Alvarado, 4.5. You'll take that. But some of these other guys early in the year now, 13.5 for Damon Jones, 9 even for Connor Brogdon, 6.23 for Bailey Falter. Folks, it's early in the year, but that's not going to cut it. And Connor Brogdon was sent down following the game. The velocity that they've seen from him has not been up to snuff. It's not something that they liked. So, unfortunately, he will have to work his way back up to the major leagues and earn some trust down there in Lehigh. There are other issues just outside of the pitching, though. And the bullpen wasn't great, and Aaron Nola certainly wasn't great on this one. But the other current that I'm seeing, the other trend that I'm seeing with this Phillies team, that top part of the lineup is just not getting the job done. Kyle Schwarber went 0 for 4 on the day. He had a walk. He's being selective. He sees a lot of pitches, but unfortunately, a lot of them have been ending in strikeouts or weak outs. He's batting .091 on the season. JT Realmuto was 1 for 4. He's better, but .238. You need more out of the 2-hole from him. If he's going to be that high in the lineup, you need him to add more. Bryce Harper was 1 for 3, and that last one was a nice little home run down the left field line, kind of a cheapy home run that barely got out, and it helps that Citizens Bank Park is a little bit smaller, but man, he's only batting 143 to start the year. Now, Kyle Schwarber is a notoriously slow starter. I'm not overly worried about Kyle Schwarber individually, and Bryce Harper, he's not going to hit 143 this season. I promise you. I can promise you I'm not going to say my life, because I still got a couple good years ahead of me. But let's say this house, which I rent, which you can take anyway. I bet you on my house that Bryce Harper is going to bat better than 143 this season. So I'm not too worried about that. Nick Castellanos has actually picked it up a little bit. He's over 300. He's batting 304, and he had another 2 for 4 day in this one. He had another 2 doubles in this game. So it's literally like all he does is just extra base hits, which is great. He's starting to settle in a little bit, but some of those top of the lineup guys, and we're also not mentioning Rhys Hoskins, who did not start in this one, got 1 at bat, but he's batting 278. It's not as bad as the other guys, but you'd like to see him push maybe even a little bit. Actually, with his power numbers, we'll take 278. Those top of the lineup guys, though, they set the table for everyone else. They get the most RBI opportunities. When those lower in the lineup players get on base, the Matt Vierlings, the Bryson Stotts, the Yohan Camargos, those are the guys at the top that you need to bring them in. And they haven't been holding up their end of the bargain so far. Ricky Bottalico, who we have on 97.5 The Fanatic on the John Kincaid Show, he does, well, we have him as a guest. What he really does is he does pre- and post-game for the Phillies TV broadcast. It's him and Michael Barkan. They give you a great little idea of what went on and their thoughts. And Ricky pulls no punches. And he said the exactly right thing after this Game 3 loss. He knew there were going to be rough spots for each of these guys, and some of them are slow starters. But he didn't think like each of the top 4 big bats were going to be slumping all at the same time. Not just at the beginning of the year. At any point in the year, you build out a lineup like this and you bring in Castellanos and Schwarber to make sure that someone's hot at all times. And you know what? Castellanos is pretty hot and Rhys Hoskins is pretty hot, but you can't have JT, Bryce, Kyle Schwarber all this rough at the same time. One of those guys are going to have to figure it out. All of those guys are going to have to figure it out. And they will. I'm going to say it again. I said it in my my Locked On Now that I did as a reaction to the game last night. I'm going to do my best Aaron Rodgers impression. R-E-L-A-X. Relax. Everything's going to be fine. Again, these are just trends. We're not getting hit by the tidal wave from day after tomorrow, okay? We're not worried about that. This is not like the ocean is not ending us, all right? We're just seeing little bumps in the surface of the water. We're searching them out, figuring out how we avoid them so we have as smooth sailing as possible as the Phillies continue on their 2022 season journey. So just some things to keep an eye on. And hey, so good news. Here's what the Phillies do over the next week. We'll call it week because it's 7 games. They play 7 more straight days, no off days until this coming Thursday, a week from today. But they get the Marlins 4 times down there in Miami, hitting the road for the first time in the season. And then they go out to Denver and they play the Colorado Rockies. Both very winnable series, all very winnable games. The Marlins are not a slump team. They're not a bad team. And I feel like a lot of people are looking at the Marlins and they think about the Marlins teams of the past 2 years, which the Phillies should have handled easily. Well, this year, this team isn't bad. They could very easily win 79, 80 games. So you got to look out for them. But the Phillies are just frankly a better roster. They should win this series. And, if you win 2, take a look at getting an opportunity to sweep it. If you split with the Marlins, I'm a little bit disappointed. But I'm okay with you staying 500 through that because that puts you just 1 game below 500 in the division. You got to at least split it, though, and you should win that series. The Rockies, this is another one like the Athletics opening series. 2 out of 3 wins is minimal. I want to sweep. I want to be holding a broom at some point in the next 7 games. I want you guys to see me like holding the broom and hitting the ceiling with it and everything and getting all excited for the Phillies' first sweep of the year. You know what? I think they do it in one of these 2 series. That's a little CT pre-prediction for you. I guess all predictions are pre. But again, like I said in my Locked On Now, RELAX, relax. It's early in the year, and even though we're seeing some trends, and the Phillies just lost their first series of the year, they're going to be fine. They'll be all right. You don't have to worry about them as far as the big trends are concerned. They're going to be okay over the course of the season. The reason I keep looking down, sorry about that, is I'm pulling up this because I want to tell you about Locked On Now. So you might have seen me do a couple of Locked On Nows already. There are immediate reactions to the end of the games. This is a short video. There's a channel on YouTube to check it out. So go to the YouTube page if you're not subscribed. Subscribe to that. And I want to thank you for making Locked On Phillies your first listen as always. For your next listen, though, check out the Locked On Now podcast. This is wholly unique to the Locked On Network. There's a million other schmucks doing the Phillies beat and talking Phillies baseball and everything like that. And I don't mean schmucks. I'm just giving them a hard time because, of course, I want you to listen to Locked On Phillies. I think we're the best out there. And there's other great content, but no one does it quite like your boy CT. But here's something that Locked On just does themselves. You can find, Cincinnati Reds information. You can find San Diego Padres information. Just listing teams here. You can find it for a whole bunch of different teams across different leagues. And Locked On is the best place to find it, but there's other stuff out here. Here's something Locked On does that's totally unique, though. For your next listen, I want you to check out the Locked On Now podcast. Recaps of MLB games with analysis from our local experts, like yours truly. So what it is right after, there's going to be like a minute to a minute and 15 video of my immediate reaction to all Phillies games during the week. None on Saturday and Sunday. So those weekend series I will react to in full on episodes like this, like full 30-minute episodes. But, man, you want to see my immediate emotional reaction, you'll get it right there. So it's taking fans like yourself through the season like no other network can. You're not going to get any other podcast to immediately jump in every single game and tell you how they're feeling right at that moment. You'll get the recaps a day or 2 after, but not that immediate now. It's awesome. It's free and available wherever you get your podcast. So go check out Locked On Now. And just like that, that storm you might have been hearing outside, it passed so quick. Already passed in the time of an episode, and the Phillies' struggles will pass too. Just got to give them some time. It's time for stepping off, though, where we step outside the lines of baseball and we talk about something baseball adjacent. It's not the stuff on the field, because I like to give you a little bit of break. Sometimes you're on the mound, like what happened with Max Scherzer in the early innings of that game, the final game of the Mets-Phillies series, where he kept staring in and yelling at the umpire to get behind the plate and yelling at Gene Segura to get in the box. And a lot of Phillies batters were stepping out, and he was very animated and stomping the ground and throwing his hands up in the air like only Max Scherzer can, being the absolute crazy person that he is. And I mean crazy person with the utmost respect, because part of that is what makes him intimidating as a pitcher. And I've played with guys like that. They're not fun to face because you could tell they've got that edge to them. But yeah, he was being a little bit nuts. But sometimes you just gotta step off. You gotta take a deep breath. You gotta step away from the game, collect your thoughts, and then head back in. So in this week's Stepping Off, where we step outside the realms of the game, like I told you, and we go ahead and we talk about baseball adjacent stuff, I want to talk about a slightly viral video that came out of the Phillies Mets. I believe it was the final game of the series. It was one of the last 2 games of the series. You probably have seen it if you're on Twitter at all. And I'll go ahead and I'll put it out from Locked On Phillies and Connor Thomas 975 on Twitter. So the video is of the right field, or the left field rather, seats at Citizens Bank Park. The lower level, right down by the flower beds, right down the line in there in left field. It starts with a Mets fan standing up with his phone out, recording the field, yelling and everything, celebrating his team's series win or win at the game, whichever game it was. He's getting all excited. He's yelling. He's making a scene and everything. So this young Mets fan has got to be in like the early 20s. And he's walking, and he turns and walks up the aisle, and he's pointing the phone around at the crowd and pointing at other Phillies fans. And he gets kind of close to this one Phillies fan and points the phone like in his face, I guess, and it's sort of, oh, look how upset this guy is type of move. And what does that Phillies fan do? In true Philadelphia fashion, he one grip snatches the phone, takes it, and just chucks it on the field. All right. Now, I do not condone stealing other people's property and throwing it on the field at Citizens Bank Park. I do not condone throwing anything on the field at Citizens Bank Park. And I'm not condoning really anything about what that fan did. But it was a little bit of an entertaining video. I'm not going to lie to you. I mean, it was pretty funny to watch him just turn and chuck it. And there was so much to break down in this video. There's a lot of media outlets that already have. I saw an interview with the Mets fan who got his phone thrown that said he wasn't even upset at the Phillies fan, and he was just he had a good night. The Mets fan is saying that, so whatever. I assume he had gotten his phone back, so that's all good. But the Phillies fan chucks the phone onto the field, and he turns to leave the section because he knows he's going to get in trouble. There's just an usher woman there who was trying to corral the kid who threw the phone onto the field. And this other big dude comes out of nowhere from 3 sections back and puts the young kid in a headlock. So he's got him in a headlock, and he's holding him there, I guess, until security comes to reprimand him or to hold him accountable for throwing the phone. But I don't know what dog that guy had in the fight, but he was holding him for a second. And then the guy who threw the phone does a spin move and gets out of it, and he proceeds up the aisle. But he wasn't running. He was more walking. And the whole time the Mets fan is just standing down there with his hands over his head, yelling at the guy, why'd you throw my phone on the field? And in fairness, if you're going to stick your phone in a Philadelphia Phillies fan's face after a loss to the New York Mets, you're going to deal with the consequences. It's like sticking your hand in the lion's cage. You can't really fault the lion for biting you if you go in the cage. Now, of course, there's plenty of times we know where Philadelphia fans go too far. But we had a beautiful moment where Alec Boehm got a standing ovation after saying he hates this place. So, it's not all bad. But you can't go poking the bear and expecting nothing to happen. And then my favorite part of all of it, though, is the ending line by this kid who threw the phone. The Mets fan was yelling up to him dude, why'd you do it? And just giving him grief for throwing his phone, obviously not happy with him. And the dude in just a thick Delco accent goes, hey, why don't you call me when you get your phone back? It's just great. That's not a good Delco accent. I don't really have one. But it was just the heavy Philadelphia accent. Why don't you call me when you get your phone back? It was just... I had to crack up at that. Again, not condoning throwing anything on the field, not condoning taking other people's property, but it happened. I didn't do it, but I can sure as heck react to it. And see, there's fun stuff that happens at the ballpark all the time. That's a little bit less family fun and more funny. Did you see that? I wouldn't have done that, but did you see that happen? But figured it was worth a little bit of yours truly's breakdown here on Locked On Phillies. That's all I've got for you for today's episode. Tomorrow, we're going to be talking about Game 1 of the Miami Marlins series, which goes off tonight, and we'll see how it does. See how Kyle Gibson takes on Sandy Alcantara. Kyle Gibson, of course, a great outing in his first start. What will he follow it up with tonight? All of that's going to be broken down in tomorrow's Locked On Phillies, and we'll get you all squared away and set up for the weekend as we prepare for the Phillies' first road trip of the year, which means I won't be at Citizens Bank Park. I'll be tweeting from here on the couch. I'll be still bringing you all the great information, though, that you've come to expect from Locked On Phillies and at Connor Thomas 975 as we go through the season. And make sure you're following both of those accounts on Twitter. Make sure you're subscribed on YouTube, locked in to Locked On Phillies. 5 stars, rate, review, all of that good stuff. Come on. I appreciate it. I've been seeing the great comments. I really appreciate everything nice you guys are saying and that you're enjoying the program. Go ahead and show your love by rating, reviewing, subscribing, all of that stuff. It helps us out more than you know, so please go ahead and do that. I want to thank you again for making Locked On Phillies your first listen every day. We're free and available wherever you get your podcast. Now I want you to make your second listen Locked On MLB. Paul Francis Sullivan, he's amazing. Sully, he knows everything about the major leagues. He just did a nice crossover with our friends at Locked On Marlins, talking about the Marlins. So if you want a little bit of preview of that series, go ahead and check that out. He knows baseball inside and out, league-wide. He doesn't cover one team. He covers the league in whole, and it's awesome. So go check out Sully. That's all I got for you. Hopefully, no black shirt tomorrow. I promise there won't be because they'll be in the middle of a series. But hopefully, a better game than what we saw the past two against the Mets after tonight's game against the Marlins. I'm Connor Thomas. I will speak to you all tomorrow.